Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the Cronkite Show in social media history. I want to welcome you to the War Zone. Donovan Sadiq is off tonight, chasing checks, but I got the Queen, Demetra K, in the building. And my God, if you're gonna be the best at what you do, ain't nowhere to start but the Lone Star State. One of the best political consultants in the game. My man Dallas Jones is in the hot seat tonight in the War Zone. It's going down. So y'all sit back. We about to go in. Say, I want to welcome you guys to the War Zone and tell you, as usual, thank you for tuning in, because you could be doing something else. You definitely don't have to tune in to this show. You're the greatest audience I've seen since the Arsenio Hall show. You're the greatest audience. All I need is a dog pound. So, and I'm gonna start off tonight with oh man, Isaac Matthews is Pastor Matthews is his people. They something else, man. Man, them people been all up in my inbox today talking crazy. Well, why are you talking crazy to me? I ain't the one that own the property. You the one that own that mold infested property over there. Where them people is dying. But I mean, and guess what? When y'all have an issue with a church, remember they got gang members in the church. The Big Hat Gang been on the loose all day. The Big Hat Gang is all them old ladies that sit on the front row. They've been on the loose all day today with that craziness in my inbox. But I just been praying for them all day today because you know how it is with me. But they upset. You know, you're lying on the man. I'm not lying. Paperwork don't lie. You know, fix your problem. Take care of that man's family so his wife does not die from what's going on. But I can tell you this here, Jarvis Johnson is working real hard to help him out and look like we're gonna make some progress. I'm gonna turn it over to Demetra.
So, hello everyone. I hope you guys are having a marvelous day. We are gonna speak to Mr. Dallas Jones about politics. But in the news, I don't know if you guys have seen that 3 of R. Kelly's people, if you will, associates have been arrested due to witness intimidation. 3 of them were picked up and charged. A couple of them, I don't know exactly who did what. But one of them offered to bribe one of the victims, with $500,000. Another one threatened one of the victims with exposing her nudes if she didn't back off. And then another one also got caught, I guess an SUV in front of one of the victims' homes, caught on fire, exploded or something. So once they looked into his server, I guess, data server, they found that he was actually looking for explosives, materials to make explosives. And so, and I guess it is also said that I guess R. Kelly was in the know about that. How true that is, we don't know, but not a good look.
You know the way I feel about it, if we can forgive Biden for his indiscretions, let's forgive R. Kelly. Let's forgive Bill Cosby. He didn't mean to do it. And that was in his past, y'all know. Let that man make it. Man, it's an honor. I'm gonna tell y'all something, man. I watched this young brother for a minute. You know, I wasn't in the political game. And I would just go out to the polls and cast my vote. And then, you know, I ended up being out there working as a poll worker and got the opportunity to work with this man. And this fabulous young brother in the political world. And his name is Dallas Jones. And I want to thank you, Dallas, for taking the time out to come and sit down and talk to us tonight. I've been watching you for a while, man. Give the people a little background on you, where you come from, how you ended up doing all this.
Well, you know, first of all, you know, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the work that you all are doing to try to keep people informed about what's going on in the community. Whether they agree with you, disagree with you, like you, don't like you, you are who you are. And, you know, you're going to speak your mind. And so we need people to do that. And we need people to get conversations started and get people a part of the process. And that's what you're doing. You all are doing with this show. And so I appreciate both of you for having me on today. I have, been involved in Democratic politics for going on 20 years now. Started off in college. I remember I was an organizer for the Ron Kirk for U.S. Senate campaign as a student. Got involved with the NAACP, was a NAACP college chapter president, and just went on to work in various aspects of government for the United States Congress, for the Texas House of Representatives, the Texas Senate, and kept with my civil rights background. I became a national staff member of the NAACP. I was a regional director over 5 states, regional for the Youth and College Young Adult Division, and went on to become national Youth Outreach Director for the NAACP's National Voter Fund, which is their voting arm. And, about, a little over a decade ago, I started my firm, Elite Change Incorporated. I looked at a lot of what was happening both in the Texas House, in the legislature, and just around, and realized that there was a real lack of people of color that were working in the consulting space, both from the perspective of electoral politics and public affairs, and from the perspective of working in the government affairs space on the local as well as the state level. It's much like anything else in this industry. What happens in the business affects all of the people that look like us, and yet there are a few of us that are a part of actually making meaningful change in the process. And so that's part of what got me into what I do, and I'm glad to do it. It's a labor of love. I appreciate, the title, the best political consultant in Texas. I wouldn't necessarily say that's true. I've won some, I've lost some, but I've certainly try to do everything that I do with a level of excellence, and for the most part, with a level of community in mind. And much like yourself, whether you love me or hate me, I've got receipts for everything that I've done, and I'm gonna keep on trucking. So that's a little bit about me.
I tell you what, man, I worked with you. Good dude to work for, y'all. If y'all can catch up with him, good dude to work for. Take care of his people. And I know you just ran the campaign for Royce West. It didn't turn out the way that you guys wanted it to turn out. What differently do you think you could have done in that race? Because I saw like a lot of the rural areas, he didn't do very well in the rural areas.
That's
So,
correct.
I'm thinking what could have been done a little bit differently, because, Senator West is a great guy. I mean, I was
Well,
pulling for, what could have been done differently? Maybe it may have had a different outcome in that race.
Well, let's talk real. I know that's what you all do here on the War Zone. First of all, I didn't run the campaign. I was responsible for a portion of the campaign. That portion was the Harris County and Fort Bend regions of the campaign, and Senator West was successful in winning those regions. And so he did win Harris and Fort Bend, which is in my direct area. But the reality of it is this: Senator West was fighting an uphill race against his own party. Here was someone that was a standard, and these are the words of Dallas Jones, not Royce West. You asked me what I thought, and so I'll give it to you. Here is someone who had been a standard bearer, a stalwart for this party in the Senate, one of 2 Black senators. Very early in this race, the DSCC, for those of you that may not know what that is, that's the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee. It's out of DC. It's controlled by the minority leader, Chuck Schumer, and a leadership team. They decided that they were going to endorse, in a field of 14 qualified Democrats, that they would endorse MJ Hager for this race. Now, what that endorsement means and what makes it so powerful is that it comes with a lot of money. The truth of the matter is Royce West should not have done as well as he did in this race and get as close as he got in this race when he was being outspent 6-1. And we're talking millions, right? And these millions were sent down using Democratic money from millions of Democratic money coming down from Washington to MJ Hegar in order to, beat Royce West in the runoff so that she could become the nominee. That's a fact. I can't make that up. Now, we all understand the power of money in politics. And so when you look at the rural areas and this and that, part of the pathway to victory for Senator West was that he had to do well in the urban areas, which he did. But in order to Texas is a very big state. You're talking about a number of media markets. She had the money to go on television and introduce herself and tell a story to people in places that, frankly, our campaign just did not have the ability to do. And so we did what we had. With what we had, we took it to the people. We hosted a number of grassroots Zoom calls. The other piece was the impact of COVID. And so with COVID, it forced us to go only into the digital space. Royce wasn't able to go in and actually meet with people in different counties and different places and really tell his story and talk about the work that he's done on behalf of the state. And so as a result, you get what you get. But he came very close. It was a nail biter of the race. I still woke up the next morning hitting the refresh button because it was just that close. And it was the people that actually made it that close that said that we're going to put someone that has been a fighter for particularly our communities. Again, whether you like him, you don't like him, whether you have whatever you have to say about him. He has been there for our communities for almost 3 decades. And so people recognize that we were able to reach using a very limited amount of resources. And the end result is what it was. We accept that, we move on, and we live to fight another day.
Demetra.
So again, welcome to the War Zone. I want to ask you, what do you find to be the biggest challenge working with the candidate as a person?
You know what? It takes a lot to offer yourself for public service. It takes a certain type of personality. It takes a certain, one of the things I can say, I have been very fortunate. I've been very blessed by God to do what I do, and I'm thankful to do it daily. And I look at what I do as a great social responsibility, because here are the folks that are going to decide what our quality of life looks like. And as a result, they have big personalities. And so in that grace that I've been given by God, I've been fortunate to represent quite a number of people that are in power here in our city. Every single one of them is different. Every single one of them has a different personality. They have different isms. They have different quirks. My job is to figure out how to adapt to who they are, understand. And I always tell my clients, you know what? You don't have to listen to me, right? This is your dream. This is your dream. I'm here to help you get your dream. I am a consultant. I'm here to consult you. And it's just like the church. It is ours to extend. It's yours to accept or reject, right? Sometimes they accept it. Sometimes they reject it. And sometimes that comes with consequences. And I think part of it is also being able to know that you're not always right. One of my mentors in this game is State Rep Garnett Coleman. And one of the first lessons that Garnett taught me when I was a young student in this game was, you don't know what you don't know. And so the key to this is that you have to always be learning, and there's learning to be done from the client, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that's going to have to be responsible to the people. And their responsibility to the people is based on who they are, their experiences, and how they think. So you have to learn how they think, learn what their background was. I'll say this. I was responsible for running Brad Scarface Jordan for council. And guess what? One of the first things I did, I took his biography and I read it, right? Because when you can read your client's biography, now most of them don't have a biography for you to read, right? It gave a very deep insight into who he was. And regardless of what people thought about it, that was a moment in my career where I said to myself, I'm going to do something different. I could have easily said, I'm going to take someone that fits the mold of what a city council person should be, and I'm going to get behind them, and I'm going to do that. I wanted to do something different. I'd represented the last couple of council members that had sat in that seat. So it wasn't about a knowledge of how to win or not win the race. Wanted to do something different to give the people something different. And guess what? We didn't win. But I have no regrets, because at the end of the day, it was an opportunity to do the right thing and offer a different voice with a different perspective to help shake up our city government. And so you learn from your clients, you lead in with everything that you have, and you make no apologies when your will is strong and your cause is just.
Okay. Well, let me, yesterday was a historic day. I saw you made a comment on Facebook. I keep up, I watch out.
What I say?
You said it was a historic day.
Oh, okay.
And if they were hating, let them hate on them.
Hate tomorrow.
Hate tomorrow. Now, here's my comment to that. It was a historic day, but it looks like a lot of time black folk on the opposite end, they on the backside of the history thing. So we make history, but yet we don't make progress. So with that being said, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden's running mate, people know how I feel. I'm not here to drag this lady tonight. That's not going to happen. But what makes her so special for this particular job? What makes, in your mind, if you support her, if you don't, you don't. But if you do, what do you think she brings to the table for Joe to actually acknowledge African Americans and put us a little bit higher on the totem pole when it comes to solving issues?
So before I say this, let me preface this with, I am a Kamala Harris supporter. I am not a Kamala Harris supporter because she just became nominated for the vice presidency. I was a Kamala Harris supporter early in the process when she was still a candidate that was viable, when she was leading in the polls and when America was taking a good look at her. Listen, America is tough. I'm always reminded of the words of Reverend Nelson B. Rivers, former field operations director, a stalwart of the NAACP. He used to always say, America's a big dog country. It'll step on your poodle. It'll eat your chihuahua. And if you don't have a big dog in the race, America will walk all over you. Now, I don't care what anybody has to say in regards to what they think about Senator Harris. That's their opinion. But to watch this woman of color do everything that our ancestors would have wanted us to do, to educate herself, to move into the seats of power, to serve as a prosecutor, an attorney general, to make her way to be the sole woman of color serving in one of the greatest bodies in the world, the United States Senate. Why not? Why not consider what she has to offer our country? Well, you say, well, Dallas, what about her record? She was a prosecutor. She was a prosecutor 10, 15 years ago, and she put black people in jail. She was a prosecutor 10 years ago, and or however many years ago it was, and she put people in jail. That was part of her job, right? She went on to become attorney general. She did some things wrong. She did some things right. But Derek, I promise you, if you had to judge me and my work from who I was over a decade ago, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I don't think many of us would be. We progress, we change. But let's not talk about just where she was. Let's talk about where she's gone, what she's done in the United States Senate, what she's championed in the United States Senate, what has been her causes of criminal justice reform in the United States Senate. We loved her when we watched her drill Brett Kavanaugh. We loved her when we watched her drill Attorney William Barr. We loved her. We said, go black woman, go. We're with you. And now, where she is positioned one heartbeat away from the greatest, from the most powerful platform in the world, we want to talk about what she could have done wrong, but what about what she's done right? She's done a lot right. And I think if there were going to be a Black woman to be put on the ballot for the first time in the history of our country, you sure right we on the back end of where we're going. This is America. America's never been America to me. And so at the end of the day, we are still fighting hundreds and hundreds of years of institutional slavery. Certainly we are. But at the end of the day, here we are. And to have her in there and have an opportunity for her to champion issues for our communities and for communities that we've come from, we should be, those of us that are of the Democratic Party and that are supporting this ticket, we should be proud. I said this morning on Fox 26. It doesn't matter who he would have picked. There would have always been a sect that have been unhappy. And there would have been a way for the other side to pick them apart bit by bit. And so today, Senator Kamala Harris is the presumptive Democratic nominee for the vice presidency of the United States of America for the Democratic Party. We should be proud and celebrate her.
I tell y'all what, man, we sitting down having an intimate discussion, me and the Queen, Demetra K, with Dallas Jones, one of the top political consultants in the state of Texas, and we will be right back in a few seconds.
Oh, wait.
A candidate that we are highly recommending.
Sorry.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donovan Sadiq. I'm on the War Zone with Jerry Wayne Monroe and Demetra K. I want to talk to you guys about a candidate that we are highly recommending running in the 127th District Court. His name is Niall Copeland. Now, on the show, you guys will always see me talk about the definition of insanity. What is the definition of insanity? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. This isn't going to happen this time, because I want you guys to check out Niall Copeland. He's running in the 127th District Court. Take a look at him. He comes highly recommended by the War Zone.
Voting is about choices, options. It's about exercising your right to go into the booth and choose the person who is going to better suit your needs. It's about changing up if you so choose to do so and trying something new.
Say we're back, man, with Dallas Jones live on the War Zone.
War Zone with Jerry Wayne Monroe.
And Niall Copeland, man, y'all think about it. You got to go in them voting booths. You have to make decisions. You need to research your candidates and make sure that you're picking the right people for the job. All right, Dallas, people come here and, the Borkins, the Chief, Tony Busby, everybody get to sit in the hot seat. So in Harris County, there's a perception that there's a lot of voting fraud going on with the mail ballots and all that. And the thing is, sitting in the hot seat, I got to keep it 100 with you, that I've seen some things, not per se from you, but I've seen some things that just didn't seem normal. When I looked at numbers and different things at the end of races and stuff like that. So, can you speak on that a little bit? Should we be doing all these mail ballots for November? Because I'm gonna be honest with you. If you can go to the turkey leg hut, you can go to the voting booth. That's how I feel. I don't think we need to do all the mail ballots. What's your opinion?
Well, there are a large number of us that are not going to the turkey leg hut, and there are a large number of us that have pre-existing conditions, that we cannot see. People like myself, I'm a diabetic, right? And so you would think that, sure, you can just, go out and be out and about. But the reality of it is I do have a chronic illness that can compromise my immune system, making COVID-19 deadly for me. is there widespread voter fraud going on in Harris County? I don't believe that to be the case personally. It's been something that's been looked at. It's been investigated. I think if it's happening, folks that are participating in it ought to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Now, what I am concerned about is here we are at a time of one of the most pivotal elections of our lifetime, and we're faced with a pandemic. It's a statement of two realities coming to themselves, right? How do we protect our voters and allow democracy to take place as it should? And how do we also ensure that fraud does not ensue? It's amazing to me that all of a sudden now, even though we've been voting by mail as long as all of us have been alive, we've seen vote by mail as an option only for one particular part of our electorate. Now all of a sudden the conversation is that voting by mail could lead to voter fraud, and the United States Postal Service is not equipped in order to handle mail ballots. Well, I got a question. Either you fooling me now or you been fooling me. Because if that's the case, well, then what was true today, that was true when we used it election, right? And so at the end of the day, we have to trust the Postal Service to do what they've been doing for this country since its inception. And I, again, I can't speak to voter fraud. I don't know. I've read some articles about some things that have happened, but these things have to be adjudicated in the court of law. People are innocent until they're proven guilty. I think whether it was voter fraud or any other crime, I think we would want people to have their fair trial in court. And so I can't speak to that, but I can speak the need to greater access to the ballot. And listen, absentee, in person, longer voting time, on-site registration, every liberal way you can think of to give access to people the right to vote, I'm for it.
All right, well, we interact with our audience. If you watch the show, we read comments, and some comments don't come across the screen, so some of them come through the phone, like with me. So I got a comment, and you can answer it, you can speak to it. There are rumors that maybe you or Kasich Tatum hired somebody to pay for mail ballots back when Kasich Tatum was running for the late Larry Green seat. Now, I can tell y'all, when I worked for Dallas, I didn't see anything. I mean, he ran an outstanding situation because I worked with you with Brad. So I was always in the office and different things. But can you speak to that, brother?
That's one of those things where, you hear it and you hear the rumor mill that we paid for mail ballots. Yeah, I heard that me and Vice Mayor Pro Tem Kasich Tatum paid $20 to $25 a mail ballot in order for her to win the race by damn near 80%. Now, I tell you what, that sure is a lot of money to spend for a part of the electorate that wasn't even close to having an impact on the race. Now, strangely, that I would have to do that in a special election to replace my dear, dear friend, Councilman Larry Green, at a time where every organization, every endorsement in the race went to who he wanted to be his heir apparent, Martha Kasich Tatum. So it would be amazing to me that of all the times, of all the races, of all the things I did, that it was that time that we basically took what would have been probably tens of thousands of dollars to spend on mail ballots. That's one of those things in this business where it's like, people love to create rumors and situations. I'm okay being the big bad wolf. And 5 Star, you know me. I'll tell people no, and my no is my no, my yes is my yes, and I don't have a problem telling you no. And so, hate it or love it, at the end of the day, in this business, somebody always wins and somebody always loses. Nobody likes to lose. And when the loser loses, they always want to point the finger at the winner and say, well, you're the fault. You're the reason that the people didn't choose me. The reality is You are the reason the people didn't choose you.
Demetra?
Yeah, so I just want to go back to Kamala for just a second. I know we said we weren't going to beat up on Kamala today, but you're very passionate about her, I guess, nomination for VP of the United States. And so a couple people had a question. I also had the question, what policies or bills or anything did she really sponsor as senator that you can think of that would make her a great candidate for
well, I can talk in a broad
presidency.
spectrum of her work. I'm not going to say that I can sit here and spout out specific bills and bill numbers in terms of what she's done. And let me also point out my passion, which is consistent regardless of what I'm talking about, is about progress. And so one of the things we tend to do is we tend to take policy and we tend to look at it in a microcosm and say, well, if only this particular thing would happen or that particular thing would happen, well, then that's something that has been done for the Black community. Senator Harris has looked to champion things from, when people were losing their homes because of a fallout in the mortgage industry. Kamala Harris, as Attorney General, went and took on the big banks and said that this was wrong. Guess what? Black people were a part of that. When you talk about criminal justice reform, police reform in the Senate, Senator Harris has been at the forefront of trying to champion that legislation in the United States Senate. And that go ahead.
Does Steve Mnuchin ring a bell?
Yes, Treasury Secretary.
Does he ring a bell when he was in California and he caused 80,000 Californians to go into foreclosure due to him and One West Bank doing some chicanery? And Kamala refused to indict him or hold him accountable for doing that.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, so I'm not going to speak on something I'm not familiar with. But, to keep going, so I think at the end of the day, if you have seen what happens and what occurs in the United States Senate, if you're watching it closely in the United States Congress, look, there are hundreds of thousands of bills that are filed in that body. And so at the end of the day, the question is Senator Harris on the forefront of the issue? She has advocated for statehood for the District of Columbia. Well, we understand why that's a big issue in the Congress, because the District of Columbia is made up of whom? Black people. Right? She has advocated on behalf of reparations. She's been a part of that conversation. So at the end of the day, right, she has been at the forefront of the fight. And so my only point is, what do you want to do? Stay home because he nominated Kamala? Were you going to vote for him before and now you're not going to vote for him now because he nominated Kamala? Right? Are you going to, what are you saying? So you'd rather, and maybe some of you might, I don't want to live another 4 years under Donald Trump. I don't want to do that. And so here's where we are. And so the only point I'm making is that she has been made the nominee. And yeah, I don't expect Black folks to be monolithic and just say, okay, well, she's Black, we're going to accept her, and that's just it. I don't expect that at all. But I'm the one that was invited on the War Zone. And so I'm telling you my opinion about why I'm excited about the nomination and why I intend to support her.
Well, let me ask you this. And I respect you saying you don't want to live another 4 years under Donald Trump. I don't want to live another 4 years under African-American politicians that are not doing anything for us as a people. So I decided I would switch parties. Now, I hope people understand when I say that, because I'm going to down ballot. The presidential race, I'm going to down ballot. So when you look at somebody like me or somebody who's in that mind frame, an African-American, let's see if Dallas can help me. What would you tell? Because I don't feel like that I left the Democratic Party. I feel like the Democratic Party left me years ago. Mm-hmm. So what would you tell me to make me understand that I should come back to the Democratic Party. And what reason why?
Well,
I'm African American.
Let me say this. I am not here to advocate on behalf of the Democratic Party. I'm not one to do that. I do think you just heard me start this conversation in my belief that the Democratic Party essentially, not the Democratic Party, but the Democratic establishment essentially should have supported a Black man that had been a standard bearer for 30 years. You saw me start that conversation. So I'm not here. You know, I work with Democratic candidates. I am a Democratic strategist, and I try to work within the party and the party system for progress. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the party does not have ways to go in better reaching our communities, in better talking about our issues, in putting our conversations into the forefront and actually turning them into real policy that's going to make meaningful change. I'm not the guy to sit here and tell you that. Okay. And so in order for me to tell you what you need to know in order to come back to the party, you know, I don't know what your particular issues are with the party. I'm coming onto the show a bit blind. I didn't even know you left the party, right? But what
the issue is, and you're one of the few, you and Senator Miles, I know for a fact, you know, you have your businesses in the Black community. Mm-hmm. You know, your office is right there in the Black community. You cross the street really from Senator Boris Miles.
Yes, sir.
Outside of that and a little gentrification, our community still looks the same. Mm-hmm. Crime is through the roof. You know, and you know I'm out there ringing the alarm with politicians to do something about the crime. Mm-hmm. You know, we have food deserts, the same old thing every 4 years, but we getting the same old promises. Mm-hmm. So when people ask me, you know, what are you doing, Monroe? I'm like, man, if I could change my draws, I could change my party. Yeah, I'm just tired of it. And I mean, I don't see it. You know, I'm not gonna say every Democratic candidate or every Democratic incumbent is not good. Yeah, there are some good ones. Yeah, but the party in a whole is like we're not getting anything from it.
Yeah. Well, you know, it goes back to my conversation, you know, when you talk about the gentrification and things like that, you know, all of the party, you know, all of the politics starts here locally. And, you know, as I said in the beginning, you know, I'm not afraid to shake up and buck up the system. And I'm using again, the fact that I wanted to do something radically different by running Brad for city council, right? People thought I was losing my mind. I wasn't losing my mind. I was interested in a train of thought and a background and a person that had a different experience that would shake up the establishment of what we're doing. You know, I don't necessarily prescribe, or just because you work with someone, you know, doesn't necessarily mean that you can't look at them and call them on what they're doing or not doing and saying you're wrong or right. That's part of my job. Part of my job is when they're wrong to tell them I'm wrong. They're wrong. Now, just because I don't come on the War Zone or I don't get on Fox in the morning and say, well, you know, this person, you know, screwed up. My client screwed up today. Let me tell you all about it. Well, that's not my job, right? To do that, my job is to get them back on the right path. And so you're right, but I don't think, let's not pivot. Let's not pigeonhole just our Black politicians, but the white ones too, right? Politicians are people. People fail us. We, the people, are the ones that have to keep them focused, have to keep them moving in the direction that we need them to go, and we need our communities to go.
Demetri.
So let's switch it back to actually what you do, right? And that's a political consultant. So I actually have worked with candidates in the past before as well. And one of the first things I asked them is there anything I need to know about you that we might have to walk back in the future? Have you ever ran into that and had to fix something when people say, oh, no, there's nothing you need to know?
Every single day. Like I said, politicians are people. And I don't think anybody watching this show you know, can say, okay, I've done every single thing right in my life. I know that I certainly can't say that I've done everything right in mine. And sure, there have been things and issues and giants in the land that I've seen before we actually started running the race. And there were giants that knocked me upside of my head while we were in the middle of the race. And I looked at them and said, why didn't you tell me there were giants in the land, right? It's a part of the gig. Some things are further than others. There are certainly levels of it. But again, you know, I'm a person of deep faith. And I think that at the end of the day, none of us can judge the heart of man. You know, if it's something that, you know, is harmful to our communities, and is it something that's harmful to our communities and is going to cause a moral decay to our community that you did? Or is it something personally you did in your life that nobody else knew about? Those are two different things, right? And so, you know, what somebody doing, who they sleeping with, who they slept with, what they did with, is that going to stop you from being a good public servant? I don't think that necessarily disqualifies you, because I can tell you, if that was the litmus test for public servants and for elected officials, we probably wouldn't have any.
Well, I tell you this, man. I saw that Dallas has a beautiful family. I saw that just from Facebook. I ain't using them FBI tactics on you yet. I just saw you do that on Facebook, and you gave your baby a party, a drive-by party, which is starting to be the normal. You know, as a father, and I'm so critical of the mayor sometimes, but y'all haven't heard me say anything recently, because I think he's doing a decent job during this pandemic. But as a father and your wife as a mom, how do you feel about this pandemic sending your baby back to school at the moment? But you know, I'm talking to a father, not the political consultant.
I understand, and I'm going to be as transparent as I can in the sense that my daughter does attend private school, and if her private school were to open, her mother and I would send her back. Now, the reason we would send her back is because she is in a private school, which they tend to have more resources. They tend to have smaller class sizes, and they tend to have a bigger ability to control the pandemic. Now, that being said, I would not send her back to a public school. I wouldn't send her back to a public school because you've got larger class sizes, more kids, more teachers, more parents, more. And so the risk factor in my mind goes up. The resources are not there to control and to properly fumigate and to properly distance. And the resources simply aren't there on strained budgets. So I would not send my child back to a public school. That's part of the reason why my child is in private school. And because I want her to have the education. I'm a product of public schools, nothing wrong with public schools. Her mother and I made a decision about the environment that we wanted our child to be in. So she goes to a private Christian school. But at the end of the day, yes, I would send her back because of the school she's at. And you're talking about maybe 13 kids in a classroom. I can stretch 13 kids out in a classroom and limit their interaction and make sure the parents don't go into school and things like that. But when you're talking about, 30 plus kids, that's just not manageable.
You guys, we're sitting down talking to Dallas Jones tonight. I mean, super consultant in the state of Texas, elite change. And if you're planning on running for public office, man, get with my man. He gonna guide you the right way. We'll be right back in a few seconds.
Hey, you guys, Donovan Sadiq from the War Zone with the 5-star General Jerry Wayne Monroe and Demetra K. Hey, what do I always say on the show? I say, what is the definition of insanity? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So what I want you to do is take a look at a candidate that we are looking into because we want to make some changes. His name is David Newell. He's running in the election. I want you guys to remember that name, David Newell. Take a look at him. Tell me what you think. We're going to see you on the War Zone.
So when you go into the voting booth this November, make sure you know who you can count on. Those are the people who deserve your vote. The people that have been there time and time again and that have served your needs. So again, make sure you go in there and check the box for who you can count on.
Yeah, we're back on the War Zone. Got Dallas Jones sitting in with us tonight, Elite Change. If you're looking for running for office, I mean, go sit down and talk to my man. He can give you some great advice on what you should and should not do. Brother, I mean, you one of the hardest working I ever seen. So I just got one request, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Demetri. I need you to call your man Justin Jordan, tell him get up out the kitchen and come on sit up in his hot seat on his War Zone. Because I mean, he a bad boy too, man. Got love for him. Come on, get him out the kitchen, and he really be. If y'all ain't never saw Justin cook, the man is an excellent chef. So, I mean, on top of that, one of the top lobbyists in the state of Texas. So tell him come sit down with us, and we'll be glad to sit down and talk to Justin. But you got to bring us something to eat, though.
Yeah, well, I heard he burns in the kitchen. He burns in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah. You got it, Demetri.
So we know that usually it takes pretty big money to run a campaign. Have you ever had to run a campaign where funds were maybe not so great? And did you win with that?
Yep. I have had to run a campaign where funds are not so great. And yep, I did win some of those campaigns where the funds were not so great. People go into it ambitious. Nobody really knows what's going to happen at the end of the day in terms of fundraising. A lot can shift. Again, COVID shifted the fundraising climate for everybody going into these runoffs and, for those folks that are going into November. So a lot can happen. Money is a big part of politics. I was, when people do come and sit down with me, the first question I ask them is actually, how much money are you willing to invest in yourself, right? How much are you willing to invest in yourself? If you're not willing to, if you don't have no money to put towards your own campaign, you should not be running for office. Because how can you expect people to invest in you when you're not even willing to invest in yourself, right? You ought to be the biggest contributor to your campaign and willing to do what it takes. I've literally, and in that situation, when clients did have money, I've seen clients do all kinds of things, go as far as the markets there, put a second mortgage on their home in order to make sure that their dream has been fulfilled. That's somebody that's willing to invest themselves, and you got to be willing to do that.
And so I guess because a lot of times people really don't know how much money they're going to make. I guess they can estimate, well, to start with what they have. Do you change your prices? Let's say if someone didn't raise all the money they said they were going to raise, and have you ever had somebody come to you and say, well, I know I told you I was going to pay you this, but fundraising it didn't work out that way. And so have you had to take a price cut? Absolutely.
I've had to take not getting paid. I have clients that still owe me now. And I'm not talking about a little bit of money. I'm talking about a lot of money. Am I ever happy about it? Absolutely not. Just like everybody watching this show, want to make sure when you do your work and do the value that you have agreed upon in a contractual situation, you want to make sure that you get paid what you were supposed to be paid. I'm no different than anybody else. This ain't the church, it's a business. And so at the end of the day, yes, I've had plenty of situations where clients simply could not meet their obligation. Now, here's the other piece, and here's what people don't understand. When you're actually running a business and not a side hustle, because there is a difference, by the way. And for those folks that may sometimes like to come from me, I'm running a business. I employ staff. I actually have an office. I actually pay resources out to make sure my business runs in a certain kind of way. Like at the end of the day, when the money is low on the campaign, my job first is to make sure that voter contact happens before I get paid, because without voter contact and without actually being able to win the election, you may never collect your money. So at the end of the day, you got to make sure that if you only got, $10,000 on hand, you better be using at least, 8 of that to contact voters. And if you got staff you got to pay, sometimes everybody has to take mutual, a mutual understanding that, hey, look, the campaign is running low on money, but we got to contact these voters. We're going to try to make sure we get you on the back end. That's not nothing new. It happens all the time. It happens all the time in the business on every level. I've seen federal candidates that left the race still owing their staffers money. It happens.
So let me ask you something. District B, I think it was yesterday or the day before, finally decided Renee Jefferson Smith is not, lost that case. She's not going to appeal. That means Tasha Jackson, Cynthia Bailey. I mean, that's like Ali versus Frazier to me. Now, finally, we get to see the fight. Finally, we get to see the fight. What is your ideologies on how that whole situation played out?
Well, again, in the spirit of disclaimer, my client in the race was the client that filed the lawsuit, Renee Jefferson Smith. And, the lawsuit was filed under the premise that, Renee felt that she was not, that the race was not handled properly in terms of Cynthia's record, the law, what the city should have done versus what they've done. We all read about what went back and forth in terms of the legal battle of the case. I think it's gone on too long. I do believe that the people of District B deserve to have the representation that they should have at that table. And I believe that, the law around the heart of this case needs to be cleaned up in the legislature. That one line about resulting disabilities and this and that, they need to clean that up, right? And so that there's no more ambiguity about where the statute lies, which caused this quagmire, which caused people to feel like democracy failed them and that their vote didn't matter. At the end of the day, those two ladies that are in this race, they earned the top two. They earned the most votes to get into the race, to get into the runoff. I'm glad that this runoff is going to finally take place, and that the people of District B will get the representative that of their choice to serve them through the rest of that city council term.
Yeah, District B is that whole District B is, to me, a very, very historic community, and they deserve the best representation that they can get. And I'm like you, it's just time that they get it.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been going on just too long. I think that's about it for me. I'm gonna final thoughts, Ms. Demetra.
Well, I would just say, Mr. Jones, feedback. Very
Okay.
well, a little feedback. So I'd just like to say thank you so much for coming on here. I know that your job is not easy. And shame on people for saying that. I guess you said some people imply that you have a side hustle. I don't even know what that's about, but yeah, like my hat is off to you. Because like I said, I know the job that you're up against, really just working with people and their people. And so I look forward to seeing much more from you and learning more about you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I just want to give clarity. No one says I have a side hustle. People try to take my profession and make it a side hustle. And at the end of the day, there's a lot more that goes into it. And I've trained for many years. I took the time to learn, to study, to do, what I need to do in order to do the work that really is the passion of my heart and what I believe is my calling. Thank you all for having me on the show today. Thank you for those that were watching. Even those that may not have had the most nicest comments, I see y'all. Hello. Always wave out to folks, no matter if they agree with you or disagree. That's the nature of democracy. That is why we do what we do. You don't have to necessarily agree. I do believe that there's a place for respect and dignity, particularly for us as Black people, right? Because we're not all the same. We don't all think the same. We don't have to all think the same. But what we should want is the common progress for people that have been marginalized in this country that look like us. And if we can agree there, it is there that we can begin to change our communities. Thank you for having me. Oh, I went to Sam Houston State University. That's been a question. Thank you for having me.
Well, before you go, I want to send a shout out to your man. He get on with you, Claude Foster.
Claude,
Man,
OG Claude.
Claude made sure I had lunch every day at the polls. Got nothing but love for him, man. So, every now and then, and it's just throwing something out there for him. Every now and then, Dallas may need some good people to work the polls. And I don't recommend very many people to work for people, but I would recommend if he needs people that y'all get in touch with him. But you're going to have to do your job.
Right, good people. If that's not you, if that's
you gonna make sure you eat though.
That's not you, you need not apply. But real quick, you talk about Claude, OG Claude. I'll tell you, Claude almost got me kicked out of school. I met Claude when I was a student in college. And this man brought this big NAACP bus on the campus, and I was the president. The dean came out and told him to turn the music off. Claude went straight black on him. Started telling the dean what he thought about him. I said, man, you gonna get me kicked out of this white school. But that's my boy. He's a good guy.
I mean, I appreciate you taking the time out, brother, to come on. You're welcome to come back anytime you want. Keep doing a good job, man. Just keep doing a good job and keep fighting the fight. And like you say, some days you win some days you lose some. I rode with you with Brad Scarface Jordan. And the only thing I can tell them, we're going to give them hell in 4 years. We coming to get somebody in 4 years.
Well, thank you for having me, man. And I really appreciate it. Much respect to all of you.
Well, y'all know tomorrow night what it is. Tomorrow night, the money man going to be back in the building. So if you got a little money, he going to show you how to invest your little money and possibly turn it into something major. It's time for us to stop being broke and stop being irresponsible. Tonight, man, another spirited discussion with my good friend Dallas Jones, one of the top consultants in the politic game in the state of Texas. Donovan is still off chasing the bag. We got the queen sitting in the house tonight, and I am the 5-star general. So when you see the 3 come through now, that's exactly what the plates say. 5-star general. Until tomorrow night, Walter Couture tomorrow night. Couture tomorrow night. The money man gonna be in the building. We'll holler at y'all.